Have you ever wondered how those big apartment guys take an apartment community from struggling to successful? How to build a business that truly serves others? Well, stick around. You're in for an inspiring story. Welcome to the Renovation Nation show, brought to you by Red Maples, your go to source for institutional style property management. I am your host, Nathan Bush, and each show I share with you lessons I learned from my real estate journey. I designed this show to inspire and equip you for your own investing path. And today's episode, we're going to dive into what it takes to turn around underperforming apartment complexes. My special guest and friend, Lee Fjord, is a powerhouse in the field, transforming rundown properties into thriving communities. Lee's story is one of partnership. It's also resilience. It also shares with you real impact in real estate and how you can have major impact in community. Remember, if you're watching live today, drop your questions in the comments. I'd be happy to get to those if we have time today, and we can see if we can answer any of those questions that you may have. And if you like content like this, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and head over to www.nathanbushmba.com. It's got a brand new look for those guys that have been following me. So check out nathanbushmba.com. And check out the show description and notes if you have other resource questions or ideas or concerns or would like to learn a little bit more about real estate. All right. You guys remember the movie Blindside? This was the story of Michael Orr, the Baltimore Ravens football professional that grew up in poverty and then came across this wonderful family. You remember how that wonderful family helped him rise above his circumstances and give him support and the opportunity he needed to thrive and succeed? Well, guys, Lee's approach to real estate is something similar. He focuses not just on profits, although those are important and you want to make sure that you're profitable and healthy. He also cares about the spaces and the people and the communities to ensure they can truly flourish. Today, he's going to share with us how real estate investing can happen on purpose. And we're going to lead with some of his rewarding results. However, I also wanted to bring up this conversation, and I want you to get this understanding today. I want you to put this entire show through this frame. See, according to the Urban Land Institute, revitalizing underperforming properties in a neighborhood can increase the surrounding values by up to 20%. So what does that mean? Well, beyond financial gains, you also get improvements in crime rate, improved schools, increased business activity. See, real estate investors can have a significant impact beyond just improvement of property values. And today's show is going to share with you and show you a human being who's doing this locally in the Midwest and across across St. Louis and across the Midwest. Lee Fjord is someone who's walked the talk. Starting with a small management role, he scaled his department from 20 doors to 220 doors in just 4 years. He's inspired his clients to success. He took the plunge into investing, and he started working his way up to major multifamily syndication. So today, Green Force Capital, his company, oversees over 700 units. And Lee lives by the philosophy, you can have everything in life you want if you'll help enough other people get what they want. What's up, Lee?
What's up, Nathan? Thank you for having me on. I'm looking forward to bringing some value to your awesome audience.
Oh man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate this. I mean, you run a local meetup group that we're both part of. I help sponsor that group with Red Maples. And that group has been life-changing from the standpoint of being in the room with other investors who are all trying to work towards the same common goal, you know?
Make It Happen Multifamily has grown over the last, 3 years from zero to over 3,300 members. And yeah, we meet once a month in St. Louis live to do our event called Tours and Pours. So come on out. Nathan will be there every month. We tour properties live with owners as small as 8 units and as big as over 200 apartments. So, we see and meet the owners of properties of all the different sizes. Love to have you out.
Yeah, that's incredible. And Lee, your journey starts from 20 doors to 700 plus units that you have syndicated and been a part of, and the whole 9 yards ownership in. What do you think has been, as you get into it, number one, how did you get there? And number two, what do you think has been kind of one of those powerful decisions that allowed you to scale so quickly?
I got there by surrounding myself with other people that already were there. Literally, it was putting myself in the rooms with the people who already were doing what I wanted to be doing And then I just literally started just asking questions and following them and learning the steps and literally just following their footsteps in the snow. As they walk, I walk, and found great people to surround myself with. I literally, it has nothing to do with me. It was who I spent time with.
That's incredible. So take me back though to the start. So how did you get started in real estate? What did the progression look like to be able to be where you're at right now?
So I was a failed real estate agent in 2012. Couldn't sell a house for 6 months. So my broker felt sorry for me, and she said, "Well, you're still showing up. You haven't gotten a payday in 6 months. So how would you like to take over these 20 houses that we manage? The guy who is running them is leaving. Do you want to take it over?" And I was like, "Sounds like money to me." So I took over those 20 houses. They were running them off of spreadsheets. There was no software. They were using like paper files for everything. Nothing was, available unless you went to the literally the file cabinet and pulled out the paper leases in the folder to look up something so small as even like the tenant's contact information. It was just crazy. So brought in professional systems and softwares, brought in and started pushing a marketing plan to be able to bring in more properties. And over 4 years, grew that to 220 luxury single family homes and condos. Our average rent was $2,500 a month. So, I mean, there was, yeah, what, half a million a month in gross revenue on that property management business each month from all of the rents that were collected across the board each month on a given month, if not more, probably closer to 600,000. But taught me a lot of lessons. I was able to learn with other people's money how to do it the right way and how to do it the wrong way. And then I decided to take the plunge and start investing for myself. 2017, I moved to St. Louis and bought a duplex for less than, for what, $32,000. And when I walked in the door to that place in St. Louis, you could see the sun from the basement. And it was a 2-story duplex. So you're going through 3 stories of clear blue sky, basically. And put that thing back together. It took me a year, my spare time. When I was done with it, I burred out all my money. So I did like the burr strategy, but it took me a year, pulled all my money out, rented the units out. And every month that place was 100% occupied and nothing broke, I made $300. So let's just say a life-changing education, but not a life-changing amount of income, and multiple six figures in at risk money. I put my own money in. I, like funded it all out of my pocket, put over 100 into it, and learned a lot of lessons, but it was really high risk. There was risk that of so many different types. Um, so that is what I'm trying to teach other people not to do because of where I ended up taking our business. So fast forward to today, we now are a larger scale multifamily real estate. So we buy 100 plus unit garden style multifamily properties in growing markets. So we look for population growth as well as diverse economy. We own in 4 states now: Missouri, Arkansas, Georgia, and Louisiana. And we're continuing to expand our portfolio, of course, and in Missouri. Yeah. So we're continuing to expand in all those markets and growing into other markets like Kansas and Oklahoma and Texas.
Yeah, so clearly building an organization that large, you can't do it all on your own, like you've said. So how does focusing on partnerships then, Lee, help you succeed with the growth of Green Force Capital? Describe a little bit about these partnerships that you have and what impact it's had on the community at large.
It has helped immensely for me to be able to bring in partner with people from all over the country with varying skill sets. They're all excellent in what they do, whether it be accounting and bookkeeping or marketing and sales or construction management, like large scale commercial real estate construction management. Each, or even, on site, boots on the ground asset managers who literally are at the property. Um, all of those partners are the only reason why we can continue to buy or have grown so much. So it's investor relations, being able to maintain relationships and create new ones with all of our investors and all the ones as well. And I am essentially, my role is a little bit of all of the above. I'm kind of the center of the wheel, the conductor, perhaps, like, telling each musical instrument in the ensemble to play at what time, or where to jump in and where to add extra, where to back off. So at the end of the day, it's the partnerships have been invaluable. And and you have great and amazing partnerships. And sometimes you have those partners that are, more difficult to do business with. So, you take the good with the bad, and you usually don't bring the bad along with you on the next one. So that's how we continue to be able to get better and better every single time.
Yeah, and you brought up some of the challenges that you've faced with sometimes you have great partners, sometimes you don't. What are
Mhm.
some of the other common challenges that you see in underperforming properties? As an expert in turning around apartment communities, and the renovations and the things that you've done in the past, what are some
Mhm.
common challenges that you're seeing in underperforming properties? Could you kind of share a story of these challenges, kind of maybe something was intense and how you overcame it?
So the first one that comes to mind, and usually is the case with a lot of properties, especially deeply underperforming properties, is deferred maintenance. So, I'm talking about like deteriorating roofs, rotting, decks, or balconies, or peeling paint, or faded or torn screens, or any number, lot lines on your parking lot that are no longer, that are just so worn that you can't even tell where to park or not. Um, those kind of things add up over time. And if owners don't put their money and their capital back into their property, they're going to end up in a case where they just have such a huge amount of deferred maintenance that has accumulated on the property, that it would take them years of investing every dollar of their cash flow back into the property and not take a single cent out of it in order for it to be a viable property still, which most owners can't do. Many owners who live off of the cash flow of their properties can't afford to go and invest another 500,000 or 1,000,000 into their property in order to make sure it doesn't continue to deteriorate, because they don't have it. They live off of their cash flows. So what are they faced with? They have one of two choices. They can eat, well, I guess technically three. They can either go without an income and reinvest every dollar they've put into, could have earned off the property back into it, or they can sell. That's really about it. You know, I mean, you can go get a loan, a construction loan for the deferred maintenance, and do that if you really wanted to, but it's pretty rare that they do. So deferred maintenance. Um, the second one is operational efficiencies. Those are really the easiest ones, and those are the best ones when investing in real estate, is looking for operational if inefficiencies that you can solve for and make an adjustment without having to spend true capital dollars to get that done. And those are kind of the two main ways that a property can increase in value. Or you can force appreciation. Is you can force appreciation through improvements, solving deferred maintenance, therefore being able to attract a more, modern tenant base, or a higher level income earning tenant base who can afford a higher rent, and therefore your rents would also be able to go higher. And that usually also involves interior unit turn remodels, where you're going in and you're like adding granite and stainless and so on and so forth. Or you can do operational efficiencies, like, for example, we reevaluate every subcontractor contract every single year, and we usually find that we can find some money lying on the ground there. We find that many owners don't utilize a ratio utility billing system, where they actually bill the tenants back for their master meter utilities like water, trash, sewer. Those are rarely individually metered. So the tenants usually only pay electric, and then owners will pass on like a flat rate fee that's too low. So we can adjust that. And then there's a level of community involvement that you really want to solve for on the third level. The third level is creating the culture in the community where the tenants want to live there and they want to stay, which creates a higher overall occupancy because you have a higher retention rate. So if when it comes time for renewal, you can go to your tenants and say, "Hey, we're going to renew you. Do you want to stay?" And if they say, "Yes, I want to stay," absolutely, because I went to uh, the poolside cookout, or at one of our properties this last week, we did a trunk or treat where we partnered with a local church and brought them to the property. And the tenants, as well as the church, people came and parked their cars and opened up the back trunks, and the kids all had an opportunity to, trick or treat there on site at the property. We blocked off that area of the parking lot and gave them an area to be able to, run and play and have fun. So yeah, those are the three ways I would say.
Yeah, so it really sounds like to me, Lee, that one of the challenges that has to be overcome is maintenance. From everything that I heard you just say, what resonated most with me is maintenance and repairs. Because when you take care of the property and you take care of the tenants, they know and they talk about it and share that with their friends and family. So how does an apartment owner then prioritize repairs and renovation work that they need to do when their budgets are tight? What are strategies that are utilized?
So it has to be planned and strategic. You can't just knee jerk say, "Oh, I really want to do this thing. Like I want to build a new fence," or whatever the case might be, and not willy-nilly do it where you just like knee jerk say, "Okay, let's go do that. I don't know how much money I have available." So you have to work with a budget. You have to sit down and write out what your hopes and dreams and plans are for your property. Some are have to do's, some are want to do's, and the have to do's you do, and the want to do's you do as many of them as you possibly can within your budget. And if you can budget out based on your net operating income at the end of the day, where you can afford to allocate a certain amount towards door paint. Now, depending on how badly deteriorated the door paint is, it might be a have to. It's probably not a have to do, no matter how bad the paint is, but it's a want to do. And how can you find a way to be able to get that done, and not be the person who's actually rolling the paint onto the door either, which I have done, by the way, to try to save money, and I don't recommend it. Like I think that that's just there are people who are better at painting doors than me.
I found that to be true, Lee, when I was in a single family home one time and there was some gunk on the floor and I was pulling the steel wool out of my back of my Honda Pilot at the time. And I was down on my hands and knees in a shirt and tie because in property management, you used to wear a shirt and tie when you went to work. I was
Yep.
down on my hands and knees scrubbing the gunk off the floor in my shirt and tie. I said, there has got to be a better way to manage these budgets than to have me out here in a shirt and tie scrubbing gunk off the floor.
Mm-hmm. Oh, been there, done that. Don't get me started on magic erasers.
So that you talked about the community too. So we talk maintenance is important, and I brought that up first because so many owners fail to understand the importance of maintenance. They'd rather take money out of the property than properly maintain the property and fill it properly, right? So you do less maintenance, you don't do the proper work on a property, you attract bad tenants. Bad tenants then tell other bad tenants to come to you, or you have the other way where you do the repairs, we attract good tenants, and better tenants come to the property. But I also heard you say something about getting engaged in the community, and that resonates with me also. Because tenant satisfaction has a ripple effect, right? Positive experiences that people have on the property have a ripple effect in the community. So, how does focusing on the tenant experience then benefit the long term success of the property? What would you say?
So I would say, well, first of all, if you have a happy tenant, you are less likely to have work orders that aren't necessarily a work order that you should have to take care of. You're gonna have less emergency work orders. You're gonna have an open line of communication with that tenant. It starts with it really it starts with the tools and giving them the tools and the ability to be able to communicate in a way that is easy for them and also convenient for the property management company. So we utilize a software system called Appfolio. And the first thing, as you know, even before tenants even move in, we have them download the Appfolio app onto their phone. So then we teach them when they're moving in how to submit a work order into the system. So if you can literally just show someone in 5 minutes, here's how you put in a work order. Here's where you go to pay your rent. Let's go ahead and sign you up for auto pay. So then you don't even have to think about your rent payment, coming or going or when or what day. And next thing you know, I got late fees and I haven't paid it. And oh, I forgot. I went on vacation, whatever. Instead, let's just put it on auto pay and it'll automatically draft on the first of the month. How's that sound? So it's giving them the ability to do things in a way that it's easy. And if you remove the barrier for a tenant, it's going to help their experience. And that's on like the property management side. So there's that. It's the it's the communication and how people are communicated with each other. And then secondarily, it's investing into the overall overall common area spaces of the community as well. When I'm at all of my properties, what am I doing the entire time I'm there? I'm picking up trash. I'm always picking up trash. And that's regardless of whether I'm in front of my tenants or in front of the maintenance guy or in front of the property manager or I'm there by myself. I'm always picking up trash. If I walk by a cigarette butt, I'm bending over and I'm picking it up. Why? Because I want to show them that I care and I want to show them that I do it. You lead by example. And then I tell the property manager, and I tell the maintenance person, when you're on site and you're going from unit to unit, you're always picking up trash. You're always looking for things to pick up. And that just makes the entire community better. And when the tenants see you doing it, then guess what? They're going to do it too. So tenant experience. Then you can even go in and create, think people like to focus on amenities, dog parks, playgrounds, valet trash,
Coffee
whatever.
shops, basketball courts. I mean,
Yeah.
as tours and pours, we've seen it all. The pool area, we've seen the grills, we've seen the nightlife. What else? We've seen the jacuzzi,
Top
we've seen the
fireplace
spas.
oh my gosh. Yeah. Like yeah, even sound deprivation chambers. Like whatever it takes to be able to get these people to come, stay, pay high dollar rent, and the big trick is stay. That's the most important one. Can we keep them for 2, 3, 4 years? Um, then last one that we try, we do with all of our communities is we have community events. Usually there'll be one a quarter, so every 3 months we'll do an event, whether it be like trunk or treat, like I mentioned before, or like an Easter egg hunt on, the weekend of Easter, or you know, what's another good example? Like the pool, like summer fun day, where it's not like 4th of July. We got like summer fun day, whatever. And we're out by the pool, and we have to bring out a grill, and the maintenance guy's there, and manager, and they can talk and tell the tenants, and we invite them out. Feed them hot dogs and hamburgers and chips and soda and whatever, and just create those environments where you can have the tenant have an emotional connection with the community, the property. And I think that it just makes them more attached and more willing to want to stay, more willing to want to bend over and pick up that piece of trash, especially when they're being taken care of. Their work orders are getting done on time because they know how to submit them. And we have a maintenance man who's actually on site there to help people. And maintenance is also customer service too.
1000%. Guys, we're talking with Lee Fjord, who is a apartment syndicator with Green Force Capital. He's an incredible investor, and his story is amazing. From 20 doors to over 700 units. This guy is incredible. I appreciate all of you that are tuning in. If you're tuning in and you've been listening to this, and you're like, Nathan, you're talking to a large apartment guy, and normally we talk small multifamily, like all these amenity things and the community buzz and all this kind of stuff. It's hard to do on our properties. Look, the reason we're talking to the large apartment investor today, the reason you guys are learning all about this information for the first time, whether you're tuning in for the first time or you're watching on replay, even though you're looking for small multifamily information, is What can you do in your small multifamily communities to create these experiences? What can you do to ensure their maintenance properly? What can you do for operational efficiencies? What can you do to get the tenant engaged and emotionally invested in the property? These should be questions that you're hearing from somebody that has 700 plus units. These are questions you should be working in the back of your mind all of the time in order to hit your goals and achieve investment success. So, Lee, I appreciate you sharing all of that information with the audience today, because it makes an impact. It makes a difference. This is what you do. I mean, I would imagine these thoughts they're rolling off the top of your head. This is what you think about all the time, isn't it?
All day. This is I live and breathe and sleep and dream about real estate. I bleed real estate. That's all I do.
You said something really important, and I want to touch back on it, because I think that a lot of people in my audience will really care about this. You said you walk by and pick up the trash. You walk by and pick up the cigarette butts. You lead by example.
Mhm.
How did you learn to align your behaviors with those values that you have?
It was honestly seeing others doing it. Literally, I bring it back to it's who you surround yourself with. So I can tell you that I walk properties, whether it was when I was a broker or now today on tours and pours or just meeting new friends or touring properties that are for sale. I can tell the property that the owner cares and the property where the owner doesn't care. It's and when I walk those property with those owners, the ones that I consistently always relate to and look up to and see having success and long-standing success, not just like a rocket ship that explodes, which you and I both have seen many investors who are rocket ships that just boom explode and you'll never hear from them ever again and they'll just be gone, whether they over leveraged or didn't run it properly or stole or whatever the case might be. But
Didn't pay their vendors, or uh, refinance the property, pulled all the cash out, and now they won't fix anything for any of the tenants, or
Yep.
they bought a property just for the depreciation aspect of it, not realizing they have a whole business there.
Oh yeah, that happens all the time. And and the ones that I meet, John Nash comes to mind. He is a local owner, owns several hundred apartments here in St. Louis. Have met with him several times, and every time I'm on site with him, he's picking up trash. He is literally right there. And when he starts doing it, I start doing it. Like it's just part of life. And he explained it to me one time. He's like, "Yeah, no, this is what I do. I'm basically a glorified, like trash pickup man."
It's so funny. It's so funny you mentioned John Nash, because in my presentation, whenever I share Red Maples with new investors, the very front page is a picture of you interviewing John Nash at Tours and Pours. And I use that slide all the time, and I explain my commitment and my investment in the community and how I've been here a long time. But more importantly, this conversation, I interviewed with John Nash for his property manager, like so many years ago, whenever I was first getting started in property management. Clearly at that time I wasn't that good, but today I've gotten much better.
Yeah.
And so the fact that you're friends with John Nash and that you guys have been walking property together, these are the type of people that we have to continue to surround ourselves with, like Lee's talking about, guys, because they're good people. These people make you who you are. And so I hope you can tell that that's one of the reasons why I wanted Lee to be on the show for you guys, is so you could be surrounded and uplifted by somebody who has 700 plus units. Lee, how many total units are you at today, roughly?
I have owned, we've sold a few things, but I have owned now 126 apartments and or houses.
Okay. So
126, or no,
126
it's not
apartments or houses.
1,026. I should rephrase that.
1,026 apartments or
1,026.
houses.
Yeah.
So 1,026, guys. So somebody has been in ownership of 1,000 deals. I wanted you to be around this gentleman so you can learn all this. What does he think about every day? What is it when he first wakes up? What's the first thought he has? I can tell you right now, pick up trash in my apartment committee. Like you can just hear it in his voice, right? Can't you? So Lee, I mean, I appreciate the fact that you're sharing this information with us. Tell me a little bit about Green Force Capital and that business, like what is a syndication? So I don't even know what that is. What is a syndication service?
So syndication is pooling money in order to be able to buy a larger asset than you would normally be able to buy on your own. So what we do is we partner with private investors who provide a large portion of the down payment and needed money in order to be able to, like, closing costs and construction repair money. So we pool that money and then we go out and use that as our equity down payment or the construction and or the closing costs to buy larger scale assets. So we'll pool together, call it $6 million of private investors' money at a tune of as low as $50,000 and as much as maybe $1 million in order to be able to buy that property. We then buy the property with an equity split where the profits are assigned to each individual person based on their role. So the money gets 70% after they receive a preferred return. So normally our preferred return is 8% on any one of our syndications. So the investors will earn 8% on their money, which is about equal to what you get in the stock market in general. And then 70% of the profits after 8%. And we take the 30% after the investors have made 8% on their money. With that money, we then close on the property. We do our best to increase income and decrease expenses as much as humanly possible through, the tactics that we just got finished discussing, improving, the condition of the property or improving the operational, side of the business and improving the culture of the community as well. That equals higher income and lower expenses, which equals increased value on the real estate. Then we end up, call it 3 to 10 years later, selling the property, and we split the profits 70-30, like we discussed. 70% to the people who invested their hard-earned money into the deal, 30% to the people who did all of the hard work.
So then is it possible for you to take us through a value add project that stands out to you, kind of either one you're working on or one you've done before, kind of from start to finish, what that looks like?
Yeah, I'd love to. So you can go ahead and pull it up. So this property is formerly Phoenix Place and is now rebranded to Arrow 2420. So this is what the property looked like when we purchased it. So it's 144 townhomes. The vast majority of them are these two bed, 1.5 bath, 2-story townhomes. I mean, look at this thing. How ugly is that? With the the orange doors and the beige stucco on the buildings. I mean, just so absolutely dated. Look at these interiors. They had some like crazy thing going on with like orange walls and it's just dirty. You can see how dirty the interior of these units are. Cabinets look dated, the floors look dated, the walls look dirty. And what we've done to the community is it had every feature that you would want for a large scale community: a nice office space, a pool, had a playground area that we had to build a new playground for. And we modernized this community so that those buildings now are white stucco and brownish beige doors with dark colored trim. Just modernizing the entire exterior of the property. We built these divider fences behind every single one of the townhouses in order to add privacy. Just completely night and day. This is a picture of the office. So before you had just a pretty bare office space. You wouldn't, if you drove by, you wouldn't even know what this thing was. Like, okay, what is it? You got some like tiny little sign that says office hours. Okay. So instead, we, in order to be able to highlight the office, we added signage. We also added a package locker system for added safety. And check out this thing. We put cameras throughout the entire community. This property is in southwestern Atlanta, just to the west of the airport, in a transitioning neighborhood, a neighborhood where crime is an issue. where daily we would hear from the tenants that their, Amazon package got stolen off their front porch. So how did we solve that? Well, we installed a package locker system and now the Amazon truck just goes to the package locker. We installed the security system so that if it were to ever happen again, we would be able to, identify who it was that was there. And then we also added additional exterior lights to every single one of the buildings. We added over 40 different lights around the property, these ultra bright, wall packs. I mean, look at that. It went from dingy and dirty and unsafe to well lit, safe, secure packages. We added the playground. It was about a $25,000 playground that we built here. There wasn't anything here. There was literally just an empty green space. So this is what, examples are of, ways to be able to improve the community through making physical repair to the buildings themselves,
It almost
paint.
looks like a completely different community.
Oh, it's completely night and day different, than what it was before with these patio dividers and added lights. And we just finished the parking lot, which taking a parking lot from old and dingy to beautiful and brand new, we added a basketball court in order to be able to have the kids a place to play basketball. And if you check out the interiors of these apartments, so this is one of our classic apartments. This isn't even an upgraded one. So you saw that apartment earlier with like the yellow walls and the ugly wall paint and dirty looking floors. Well, this unit got all new painted cabinets. Well, so we painted all the cabinets, added hardware, ripped off the old nasty multiple time resurfaced countertops and replaced them with new countertops, new faucet. We replaced things as needed. So in these classics, so we did like a new dishwasher, new light fixtures, full repaint throughout. This unit went from a rent of probably $750 to now I think we're getting $1,100 for these
Wow.
these one bed, 2-story townhouses. This is a 1 bedroom. It's kind of interesting. But we also have the 2 bedroom townhomes. And so on our upgraded units, which half of the units we're taking it to this level, as you can see here, we're doing all new cabinet boxes, all granite countertops, stainless appliances, above range microwaves, of course, new floors throughout, new faucets and fixtures, full repaint. We're doing new vanities in the bathrooms. We're doing new shower walls in the bathrooms. We're replacing shower valves, new lighting, new mirrors. I mean, literally everything except for like literally the doors and the trim in this apartment are brand new. New toilets and everything. And yeah, that's what it would look like for, a physical update to the community. And people ask me like, why? Why did you buy why would you buy this property? Well, what do we look for when we are looking for a property to buy? Is we're looking at the surrounding neighborhood, right? So this property happens to be in a neighborhood where brand new $1 million homes are being built. So we're looking for things like that when we're considering where we're going to be buying our next property. We look for where are people building brand new $1 million homes? Where are people moving to and not from? Where's there a higher level of income demographic moving to the area? And then we just buy in those neighborhoods. And if the neighborhood can't exhibit that in any way, shape, or form, then we don't buy the property. It's pretty simple. We do the same thing and very similar to that at the Avenue.
Yeah, and as you're pulling that up, Lee, you know, just as I'm sure some of the viewers would have a question about the upgrades. Like, how did you determine what was worth the investment in that community? What the demands of the demographics would have for things? Like, how did you decide what to invest in the renovation, the turnover there?
It was doing the research into the community. It was researching what other communities are doing, what other apartment complexes are doing, what are they getting for those, new upgraded apartments. And if it's been proven to be able to be done by someone else, and we actually don't just go and check apartments.com, actually go to those communities, those properties, and make sure that it's like, how many of those are you doing? How quickly are they absorbing? Do tenants actually want that? Are you getting your market rate rents? Tell me what you're doing in order to be like successful. And people are pretty open-minded when it comes to that. They're usually pretty willing to share their successes and their failures. And I know I am. When someone picks up the phone and calls me and says, "Hey, where are you winning and where are you losing?" It's like, well, I'm winning on population growth and I'm winning on growing rents, but I'm losing because the material costs, my unit turn costs, are 10% higher than what I estimated them to be, because everything's gone up in price. Everything. Labor is probably the largest one, where labor has increased in cost drastically in the construction business, especially um, in this market economy for employment. You don't get anyone who can do any amount of work at all, in my opinion, for anything less than $20 an hour. Like, you can't get someone to paint a wall, and that wall will turn out the color that you wanted it to. Like, you say, you hand them the paint, and you hand them the roller, and you say, paint the wall, and they'll paint the floor. They'll paint the ceiling. They'll paint the
it's
trim.
crazy.
It's like, paint the
We
wall.
have found the same exact thing in the management business for ourselves as well. Cost of materials, cost of labor going up. Missouri just raised the minimum wage. I can't for the life of me understand why Missouri's raising the minimum wage right now. Because if you have a brain about you, you heard, and you have some skills, you're willing to paint the floor when I say paint the floor, paint the wall when I say paint the wall. We're paying $20 an hour. So you're raising minimum wage isn't going to help me, the business owner, to be able to provide better jobs or higher wages for people. All it's going to do is inflate costs to the investor, which is ultimately going to inflate costs to the tenant, which is going to drive rents even higher. So I can't understand why anybody would vote to increase minimum wage ever. I don't know how it helps. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Most minimum wage workers aren't actually, you know, renters, honestly. Like, they are multi-generational house livers, like, I don't know. So minimum wage is literally just how much it costs to walk in the door. If you show yourself as a good quality employee, you're going to start getting raises like immediately. So you just have to show up and do a good job. The person who can paint the wall and just paints everything that shows up to work, they'll get paid minimum wage. But minimum wage at 13.70 and guaranteed to increase to 15.50 in the next 24 months. I believe that's what the numbers were in Missouri. I mean, that's $32,000 a year at the 15 mark that those folks are going to be making as a minimum wage worker. So what does that mean? That means now they can afford $1,000 a month apartment. So guess what? Guess where the minimum rent for an apartment is going to be?
$1,000.
So a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment today that's rented for, if you can find one that's rented for 600 and buy it for a reasonable purchase price that doesn't need too much capex, and it's in a growing market, all you gotta do is wait, and the rent's gonna be 1,000. And that's how they solve this problem of inflation, is by paying people more, which means you're just going to inflate more. And the rents are going to go up, and the cost of gas is going to go up. Why? Because they can afford it.
Yeah. And then on the flip side of that, to the business owner, you're going to have employees that are working for you that you can't hire as many employees that are entry-level employees do entry-level tasks. So what does that do? That pushes those entry-level tasks up to mid-level employees. They're going to get burnt out and overwhelmed and not want to work for the same amount of money. So it's going to inflate their money, and the business owner isn't going to continue to hire those people anyways in. And so you've got this vicious cycle of people who, as a business owner, you can't hire anybody anymore. You can't afford to pay what somebody needs to be paid. So now you have the revolution of AI and the revolution of, Chat GPT and robots and everything else coming down the road. I just saw an Elon Musk robot who did drywall and all kinds of things. And that's coming to a market near you guys. If you're watching this on replay or you're watching for the first time tuning in, we're talking with Lee Fjord, who is a apartment syndicator, has owned and operated more than 1,000 units in his lifetime. I've upped that number from 700 at the start of the show because I just learned that Lee has had over 1,000 units total under management, control, and ownership in his lifetime. And he is teaching us all about how large multifamily syndications work. And we were discussing for a brief second minimum wage, but prior to that, we were discussing what it actually looks like for a value add project. And so Lee had walked us through one community. That community was in where, Lee?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia. Now he's going to walk us through a second value add program that he has worked on here. So what's this one, Lee? Describe this.
This property is 128 units. Most of it is townhomes. It's called the Avenue in Northwest Arkansas. We bought this property in June of 2023. Why did we buy in Northwest Arkansas? Well, I mean, the population growth, the annual population growth projected annually within 1 mile of this property is 2% annually. That is a huge amount of population. So if you have 100 people, next year there's going to be 102. The following there's going to be 104. There are 30 people a day moving to Northwest Arkansas every single day. It's a beautiful thing. And in the past, it's in 2020 to 2024, within 3 miles, it was as high as 2.7. So those are the things we focus on when we're looking for a property. And I want to show you an example. I think they still have some of the old pictures in here. So what the units used to look like is this. So white cabinets, white appliances, white walls. It was a white box apartment. Everything was white, and then like the ugliest, cheap flooring, gray or beige carpet, brass, handles on the doorknobs, three knobs on the shower, anything that you can be able to see in these units that like would exhibit just being generally old. So what did we do? We took one of those units, and we have 2 levels of condition apartments. We have our deluxe units, where we do new cabinet faces, new granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, all new floors throughout, pretty similar to what we saw in the last one. And also, new wall paint throughout, new light fixtures, new plumbing fixtures, the works. And then we also have a classic apartment. This is one where we paint the cabinets, we do black appliances, we replace countertops as needed, repaint the entire interior of the home, do new light fixtures, new fans, so on and so forth. So we have had the opportunity to be able to go in, and we're about a little over halfway through our business plan on this property. We've owned it for about 18 months. So I want to give you an example of where we were, and this is our proprietary KPI tracker right here. So for those of you who are interested in, the asset management side of the business and how it really works, this is a tool that we use every single day to be able, or every day, and we track it weekly on all of our numbers. So when we purchased the property, we had 97 or 93% occupancy, and we were leased up to 97. We also had an average rent in place of $893. So right here is a graphic visual of the community from a financial aspect. So this is how we monitor the financial condition of the community every single month. So as you can tell here, we took over the property in June of 2023. Rents, we were 90% occupied, but our rents were only in the 800s, right? So what did we do? We systematically started removing tenants who were unqualified to live in the community, whether that mean that they're disruptive or they can't afford their rent, which that just means you need to find a new home if you can't afford the rent here. So we went, as you can tell, from 90% occupancy to a low of 75% occupancy. Like that's very low occupancy. And this was also right in that, like you could feel it in January, February. So what did we do? Why did we, how did we change the direction of the community? Well, one of my partners, Colby Carlson, moved to the property. He's my, my number two, my right-hand guy. He packed up and moved right here in this January timeframe when we could tell what was coming our way. He packed up and moved into one of the unremodeled vacant apartments on site. We drove out all of the bad actors, anybody who couldn't afford the community rent at the property. And we started improving the occupancy there and above. So now in October, November, we're in a perfect spot. We're at 95% occupancy. And as you can tell, this graph, it shows that we went from $884 a month in average rent to today we're at $1,111 in average rent in place. So, but you better believe that this time frame here, this January, February, March, April, May, when we were 85, 80, 75% occupied. Oh my gosh, those were scary times. And we were, operating just barely break even, if that. Another fun graph and thing that we track every single day is our delinquency. So we want to see delinquency. These are taken weekly, so that's why you see all of these jumps. First, on the first or third or fifth of the month, there's always higher delinquency. Well, what you want to see is a continued downward trend where you have lower and lower delinquency, and where earlier and earlier in the month, the tenants are paying more of their rent. So, you have more collected on the 5th of the month this month when you were the previous month than you were the previous month than that. So if you can see that and you can track those, you can tell exactly the direction that the community is going. Also, you can see trends in things like for marketing and leasing. You have like applications, first shows, approved applications, signed leases. It takes 50 first contacts to literally get like 2 leases. Like
Yeah.
that's just the nature of the business. But if you aren't tracking those things, you can't actually know exactly what you're achieving. We also track our Google reviews as well. So we track the number of Google reviews that we have, as well as what our Google review score is. So we want to see this score continually going up all the time. We even also track, we were talking about culture and how to be able to create a community where tenants want to live. Well, work orders is usually a big indicator of how tenants feel about the property, and whether or not they like to live in their property. Well, when we first bought the property, we had, at any one given time, we had between, call it 40 and 60 work orders. That's a lot of work orders to have in the queue at all times. That means a lot of upset tenants. So we want to be able to show that we have a decreasing number of work orders until it at least stabilizes at a place where we can, show an average, like a regular, consistent, number. And at this property, we would want to see 1 for every 10 units or less. So we want to see 13 or fewer work orders at the property. So yeah, and we also track our monthly numbers as well, monthly totals for income and expenses. We track every single renewal that occurs at the property. We have a set of guidelines for our unit, for our rent guidelines for each unit type here. So it shows us what we should be renting these apartments for. And it's easily accessible. We have our budget for our CapEx. So our exterior budget for this community had $288,000 in exterior budget. But guess what? We had some extensive additional things that we didn't plan for. So there's an extra $48,000 in exterior budget overage that we're gonna have to find somewhere else. So that's like planning ahead and knowing exactly where you're gonna be able to pull that. We track every single unit for which one is turned and what type. So this spreadsheet here tracks every single unit on the property, whether it's been, whether it's actually been remodeled, was it remodeled, and even how much did we spend on that remodel? So I can use this sheet to be able to track and know exactly down to the dollar how much we've spent on unit remodels at this community in order to be able to track and know how to make those adjustments. If you aren't able to do that on your property, all of these things like know whether or not you're on or close to your budget, whether you are, over budget, then you're flying blind. You're flying your community blind, and that's regardless of whether it's um, a four family in South City or 128 units in Fayetteville, Arkansas. So yeah, that's what we've really prided ourselves on, is creating community. We've really done a great job of turning the units around. We've really pushed on market rents in the area and are achieving those market rents every day. It's really been a game changer for our investors. We're actually in the process of getting a broker of opinion of value on what the effects have been on the value of the community since we've, put a little over about $1 million into the property since we bought it. And yeah, looking forward to seeing what the market would believe the property could be worth, which is all that really is, because nothing's really worth anything until the day you sell.
Absolutely. Man, I could talk to Lee for hours, guys. And if you can't tell, he's a wealth of knowledge. Has been a part of ownership of over 1,000 units in his career, from 20 doors to over 1,000. The guy's incredible. I have to take a second and make sure that I thank our two sponsors today. First sponsor is BBC Global Services. They're an outsourcing organization for real estate investors. If you need help with administrative tasks, check out BBC Global Services. For a no obligation consultation, go to bbcglobalservices.com. The other sponsor I got to make sure that I thank today, and today's episode is brought to you by Web Insurance. Web Insurance is known for its proactive approach to ensuring you have the best coverage at the most affordable prices. And what their clients love about them is each year they proactively shop your rates to make sure you're with the most affordable carriers with the best coverages. Head over to www.webinsurance.com to get a quote. That's webinsurance.com with 2 B's. All right. And now back to Lee. Lee, I appreciate you sharing your proprietary asset tracking information. I wasn't expecting that today, but if you're a part of my audience or are trying to learn how to do real estate at the highest levels, you just learned from one of the best in the industry with proprietary systems that he has to be able to track and increase and grow his business. Lee, where did you learn how to do that kind of stuff? Like that's very in-depth, very detailed, very analytical. Hopefully you guys are still with us today and you didn't tune out when we started showing you numbers and talking about how to actually do this. How did you learn how to do all that?
Well, first it was hiring a coach who was already doing what I wanted to be doing. So I found an organization that offered coaching, and it's actually, Jake and Gino Group, Wheelbarrow Profits. I got involved with them in 2017 and then started getting educated, started learning from them. How do they do it? How are their systems built? What tools do they utilize in order to be able to operate their, hundreds and hundreds of apartments? And then hired a coach who was a multifamily real estate investor syndicator who was at a place where I wanted to be in 5 years. He had about 1,000 units. And you better believe I got there because of those relationships, because of investing in myself, investing in my personal education, investing in, to someone who would hold me accountable to my goals, and someone who could pick apart my spreadsheet and say, oh, this is wrong, or this is right. Maybe you should add this. Maybe you should add that. And lastly, it's just constantly auditing and editing constantly. This, that spreadsheet is a living, breathing document where every time we make changes, it gets better. It gets better every single week. When we add more information, we can track more information. We go, oh, that would be an interesting thing to track on a weekly basis. Like, oh, maybe we should be tracking expenses, for example, on a weekly basis as opposed to just monthly, so that we can catch things when they pop up.
All right, Lee. Well, we're right at an hour right now. And have to very much thank you. What you did was phenomenal for the audience, for me, the education we received. And I continue to grow and learn every single day from wonderful people just like you. So I have to say thank you for that. If somebody wanted to get involved in one of your syndications, let's say they had, God love them if they have $10 million just laying around in a bank account and they want to invest in your next apartment deal, or they wanted to be a part of what you have going on or get to know you better, what are some ways and what's the best ways for them to get in contact with you?
So the best place to find me and connect is on our website, greenforestcapital.com. And you can literally book a call with me on, through the website right then and there. Takes literally 5 seconds. There's a button, book a call with Lee. And would love to be able to meet anyone and discuss real estate, whether it's they're thinking about investing passively or they want to know how to be able to go from a duplex to 1,000 units. And the barrier of entry is not that high. We're talking about $50,000 here. And once we have an established relationship, you don't have to be an accredited investor in order to invest in some of our opportunities. Not every single one of the deals is accredited investors only. So, that's the down payment on a very, a 4-family in a very transitional neighborhood. And that probably doesn't get much capex done either. So, investing passively gives a lot of people an opportunity to be able to own real estate. You own the equity in the real estate, but you have none of the risk or very minimal risk. You only have the actual cash or capital risk. You have no additional financial risk beyond the money you invest into the deal, and no time risk either. You don't have to worry about late night phone calls from your property manager, from Nathan saying, "Hey, so the sewer's backing up and it's flooding, and now we've got a half a foot of water in the basement. What do you want to do?" And then you start freaking out, like, "Well, what can we do?" It's like, "Well, the plumber said it's going to cost $1,500 to hydrojet out the line because it's clogged with, feminine products. What do you want to do?" It's like, "Well, we can't just let the water keep standing in the basement, can we?" No, we got to jet it out. You got to make those hard decisions. You got to spend the money, or and then train your tenant not to flush, undesirable things down the toilet. Like, that's not where that goes. That goes in the garbage. I've had too many sewers cleaned out because of that.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Lee. Greenforestcapital.com is where you can find Lee. Thanks for being a part of the show today, Lee.
Yeah. Thanks, Nathan. Have a good one.
You too. All right, guys. So there you have it. You've heard from one of the top real estate investors in St. Louis, one of the best guys I know, one of the biggest guys I know, on how to invest in multifamily real estate. And we learned all kinds of things today. If you're a small multifamily investor and you're looking to buy, 2 units to 50 units in one location, and you're thinking to yourself, how does this apply to me? And you're just tuning in right now. Well, number one, we talked about operational efficiencies. We talked about the importance of maintenance and deferred maintenance and how to approach that and how to tackle that. We talked about what the different options were to do if you were an owner. We made sure to cover how to get emotional buy-in from tenants. We learned all about the aspect of how to manage the KPIs and understanding proprietary information from a very high level investor on how they track their syndications to make sure that they are returning the promised returns, or you can't promise returns in syndication, but they're returning the approved returns that have been agreed upon by the investors on what they're trying to do for their preferred returns. We talked all about the common challenges that you have with team members and how to engage those team members, how to lead by example. So guys, this show is jam-packed with information. Go back if you're just tuning in right now or you're watching on replay, catching the end of this show. Go back to the beginning, watch the entire show. There's a lot of information that was jam-packed in here for you. And I can't say thank you enough to Lee Fjord for participating and joining Renovation Nation. Guy's a special place in my heart for all of the amazing work and mentorship that he's poured into our business and our lives. So from the bottom of my heart, Lee, thank you for joining us today. And that wraps us up with another episode of Renovation Nation. Thank you and for joining us on this journey of real estate business growth. And remember, just like plants need the right environment, our minds need the right condition to build a life of purpose and passion. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, join my email list, and share this episode with a friend who's as passionate about real estate investing as you are. I'll leave you with this thought. In our journey of renovation, it's more about personal success. It's about values investing. It's not about personal success. It's about values investing. Let's be stewards not only of our finances, but of our values and vision for the future, guys. Signing off from the heart of St. Louis. Stay blessed, stay inspired, and remember, every day is a chance to renovate our nation. Thanks, guys.